Welcome to Strider Tree Gear. Today we're talking about canopy anchors. These are my top 3 canopy anchors for a single rope technique. So I've got 3 different ropes here and I'm gonna give you, well, it's about 6 different anchors, but 3 of them fall into the same category. So canopy anchors are really useful, they're really effective. I've got a video on my channel about why you would want a canopy anchor rather than a basal anchor. So check that out if you're curious on that. But we're just talking about canopy anchors today. And these are the 3 that I use day in, day out all the time. There's a bottomless list. There's so many different anchors. There's all kinds of cool hardware on the market that you can use. There's a million ways to skin this cat. So these are my 3 favorites. I'm gonna go through one at a time and you can tell me what you guys think, what you like to use. I'm gonna start with the most basic anchor. It doesn't require any hardware. All you need is a rope that is at least twice the height of your anchor. It's as simple as this. You take your long standing end of the rope, make a loop. You can use, I'm using an Alpine Butterfly. You can use a bowline on a bite. The idea about this is, like obviously it's not, it's a closed system. As soon as I put this rope through there and I pull this up the tree, there's no way that can come undone. I have to break the rope somehow. The Alpine Butterfly is a safe knot to climb on. And that's it. That's as simple as it goes. You pull that thing up in the tree, and once that knot hits the top branch, this is safe and climbable. You take this, you tuck it out of the way. This is your retrieval end. So you get one of the things you always got to keep track of, your working end, your retrieval end. All of these are gonna have that dynamic. One of the cool things about this sort of canopy anchor is even though this is the retrieval end, it only retrieves if this is unweighted. So despite the fact that I'm canopy anchored, if I were to have an accident or some sort of emergency, another climber could actually climb this because I'm cantilevering it. Like he's not gonna pull me out of the tree or up into the tree by climbing on this other end. So it could be climbed up, but only when this is also weighted. That's the most basic canopy anchor. Simple as that. Okay, so this particular method has a couple of distinct advantages and disadvantages. Obviously it's simple, there's no hardware, there's nothing obvious to fail. But one of the downsides is I actually have to feed this rope through the knot and once that's up there, it's set. I can't just undo it without completely disconnecting myself from the system, untying the whole thing, pulling the whole rope through, and it's quite a pain. So one of the ways that we resolve this while still essentially doing the same method is I can take a notch quickie. And this is kind of my preferred way to do it. This is probably the most common anchor I use. You put the quickie in there, make sure it's all the way in. And now when I pull that up, number one, if I pull it down, it's gonna have a little bit less friction on it. But number 2, once it's up there, I can disconnect this and I can pull my rope out without having to go through the whole length of rope and retie knots or do anything like that. So it's really easy to set and unset, and it's only one extra little piece of gear. Also, this notch quickie can be side loaded. So even though it's wrapped around a fairly small branch, it doesn't matter. You couldn't do that with a carabiner, but you can do it with this little device. Another way to do the same sort of setup that a lot of times when I'm climbing on a spar, this is what I'll use because it chokes off real easy. You take a pinto pulley, and I won't usually set this as a anchor from the ground, but because of the way the branch sits right here, we're not cross-loading this pulley real bad. We're not cross-loading this carabiner, and it creates a very low friction retrieval system. So one of the advantages of this is so I climb up the tree, I work my way down a branch, I belay out, and now the tail end of my rope's way off to one side. When I go to retrieve this, it adds a bunch of friction at this point. Now the notch quickie or just the knot by itself is gonna make it really difficult to retrieve this rope. But with this little pulley in here, it's actually pretty easy still because it takes a lot of the friction out at that point. So this is sort of the third way to do this one type of basic choking canopy anchor. And like the notch quickie, you can take it out while you're up in the tree, just like that. Super easy, it can be adjusted, can be moved. Just a little bit more expensive. This is almost $100 worth of gear right here versus 30 bucks versus free. So that's one, just the standard choking canopy anchor. All right, canopy anchor number 2. We've got, I already set my rope up here, and I went ahead and put one end of the rope through this ring on this soft 8. I made this soft 8. I don't like it that much. I think you can buy them, but they're really simple to make. So you put one end through, you pull your rope up and over, and then you take your other end and you put it through here. Now, like the other one, this is sort of closed system. But unlike the other one, this one has some cool advantages. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to tie a stopper knot underneath one end of this. Go ahead and use an Alpine Butterfly. And for good practice, I should always put a hard connection here. So now there's no way the stopper knot can come loose and get through that ring. When I pull this up in the tree, I'm very quickly going to come to the end of this rope. Okay, so here's a common challenge. That thing's not up there rested against the branch yet. It's not quite choked off. But I'm at the end of my retrieval line because this rope is short. Here's a cool trick. Take the other end of your rope and you make a loop out of it. You can, do an overhand knot. I like to use a sheet bend because even if I jam it, it still comes out easy enough. So I'm gonna sheet bend that on the retrieval side. Now I can choke it the rest of the way, and even though my rope's no longer in reach, still got a short rope, I can still pull it out from the other side. So this is canopy anchor number 2. It's nice because it's fairly simple. There's no cross loading, no carabiners involved that you got to worry about getting kinked in there. You don't have to worry about pulling something out, a piece of hardware, through a tight union. It's just that one figure 8. And to get it back, just pull down the other side and it'll come right on down. Now this one I can also, once I'm up at the top, I can undo my stopper knot and I can pull this out. I can rearrange it, I can move it around the canopy if I need to. And this creates a nice smooth surface so that even if I've got one redirect, maybe 2, if they're fairly close in line, I can usually still retrieve this without any trouble. So there's some other great attributes to this particular anchor. And there's an arborist from Arborfest West a couple years back who did an excellent demo, and I'll see if I can find the link for you guys so you can check that one out. Arborfest West is a great resource for those of you guys on the Pacific Northwest. Hopefully it'll fire back up here once we get through this whole COVID mess. You should check it out. All right, this is the last canopy anchor I'm going to show you today. Again, just uses your regular rope and one extra piece of hardware, a ring. So if you leave a ring on your rope, what you can do is you can take your ring, have it go through both ends of your rope, you pick which end you want to climb on, and tie a stopper knot on the other side. So in this case, I want to climb over here on this side. This is going to be my retrieval end. I'll tie a quick stopper knot. Little Alpine Butterfly. Now you can, there's a couple things you can do here. I think I showed you the heart link like this. Or if you don't want to deal with having another carabiner, you can actually just take the other end of your rope and run it through that loop. Now you think, oh, that's the same thing as the first choked the first choked anchors you showed me, but it's not. It's a little bit different because when I go to retrieve this, I don't have to pull, the rope itself is not where most of the friction happens because of this ring. This ring keeps these two strands in parallel. So even though they're choked up there, the rope feeds through this knot real easily, so it doesn't build up a whole bunch of extra friction. The exception being if you're up and over another branch out here, then you're gonna end up rubbing. So we'll go ahead and hard link it with a carabiner because I don't like feeding ropes all the way through. Now, once again, the problem I'm gonna have here is I pull this up into the tree, I'm gonna be short. So I'll tie a little knot. It's a nice ugly knot there because I'm playing with the very end of my short rope. So it must be. Once again, pulling that all the way up in the tree. And that little ring doesn't mind being side loaded. It doesn't change the effect any. It locks off real solidly. And now the canopy anchor is up there and the end of the rope's right there at that point too. So if I want to move it, if I want to reset the canopy anchor, if I want to switch to double rope once I'm up there so I can traverse the canopy more easily, those can all be done pretty easily. And the only extra hardware I've got is that one little ring. It retrieves nicely as well. So I'm gonna pull down here on this retrieval end and down she comes. Usually the ring follows down. Sometimes it's stuck up there like this and then it just drops right there in place. One little piece of hardware keeps it all rope on rope friction. You know, if you can imagine the branch in here, when that chokes off, I don't have any harsh rubbing. I don't have any knots choking off real tight. So this doesn't bind up. Very simple, effective canopy anchor. Now that you've watched this long, I've got one other cool tip for you. That's not exactly a canopy anchor, but it's one of my favorite redirects. So if you come over here with me, we'll act like we're taking a little bit of a limb walk, and now we've got a spot we're gonna redirect and say drop down. One of the cool tricks you can do, you would attach your lanyard around this and then pull some slack in your canopy anchor. Pull a bunch of slack through, take a bite, go around wherever your redirect's gonna be. You can try to equalize the pressure a little bit. Take the end you're gonna be working on, throw a little half hitch in it. Doesn't have to be real tight. In fact, it's better if it's not tight. Throw a second half hitch a little bit farther down, right? So now we've got 2 half hitches on this bite through the canopy anchor, or I mean through the secondary, the redirect. And then take a little carabiner. I'll throw my tail up through here. This is pulling back on the original spot. And now I can sit in this and I'm gonna be on my redirect. So let's say, okay, so I'm gonna belay down, I'm gonna move way out here again, whatever, I'm coming back. But now I'm heading back this direction and I wanna go back to my original tie-in point. All I gotta do is throw my lanyard around another branch, get a little slack in the system, and if I pull on this, I can actually pull out the knot over here, slack it up, and it comes all the way out. Then of course you gotta pull all the slack through. But now I'm back on the main line. And there's your retrievable redirect with no hardware necessary except for that one little carabiner. You can actually get away with not even having the carabiner, but that's the easiest way to do it. All right, so you gotta make sure you pull the slack from the top of the device. Take that, go around, half hitch, half hitch. This is where is the release. If there's slack here, you pull on this to get it released. And out it comes, just like that. In conclusion, when it comes down to it, I like things simple. This is probably my go-to anchor. I use this every day. It's one piece of hardware. I can take it off and on when I'm up in the tree. And conceptually, it's really easy for the groundies to set by themselves. I don't have to worry about anything. It's so straightforward. These are all great. They all have their places. I'd like to know what you guys use, why you like it. Thank you for watching Shredded Tree Gear. Be sure to join us next time. Like, subscribe, hit that little bell button so you get notifications. We've got more videos coming out soon. And let me know in the comments, what's your favorite canopy anchors? When do you use them? Do you prefer canopy or basal? I'd love to hear your stories and get your feedback. So thanks again.